Juanita, welcome back.
Thanks.
So last week we went over a lot of information about what brought you into therapy and just a little bit about your family and your life. So this session's going to work a little bit differently. So what I'd like to do is, you had talked a lot about like some checking behaviors that you described. And I want you to maybe like walk me through that kind of, so I could get a feel of kind of what your process is of how many times you unplug certain items, or how you check the doors, and just, since I'm not actually there, just to better understand what's going on in your daily routine.
Okay, so like starting in the morning?
Yeah, whenever it is that you started.
Okay, so everything has to be an even number.
Okay.
So like I'll get out of bed in the morning and start on my right foot, and then when I go to bed at night, I end on my left foot, so that way I know that I've taken an even amount of steps every day.
Okay.
And in the morning I will like make tea and like put it on the stove, and then once it's boiling or whatever, I'll take it off the stove, and then I'll like I'll turn the stove off, and then I keep like making sure that it's totally off, because sometimes it could be like a little bit to the right, so it's not quite on the off position. And then I'll go back into my room and plug in my hair straightener to make sure that it's on, but then I'll go back out for the teapot and make sure that it's definitely off, because something tells me that it's not, and I'm just nervous that it's still on and like the house is going to burn down or something like that. And then I'll like run back to the bathroom, my hair straightener is still on, and still like straighten my hair, do my makeup, everything. I'll unplug the straightener, and then I'll check the teapot again, and then I'll check my straightener again, make sure it's all unplugged. And I just keep checking back and forth, and then I'll leave the house, and I'll lock the door, but I'll check 8 times. Everything's like an 8-time kind of check, because it can even number.
Okay.
So I'll kind of jiggle the handle 8 times to make sure that it's closed. And then sometimes I don't trust that the 8 times is really helps, so sometimes I'll do it like 16 more times to make sure that it's locked, because I don't want somebody like breaking into my house and robbing me. And then sometimes I'll even have to go back in, because I'm like, I don't think I really checked properly my hair straightener and my teapot, like the stove.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go back in and check, but I have to go back an even amount of times between both of them, and so it just takes forever to even get out of the house, and it's a really long process.
Yeah, and it sounds very distressing as well to have to check all of these things to make sure. You mentioned you're scared of your house burning down or someone breaking into your house.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd understand why you feel you have to make sure, because of that fear of these other things happening.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you mentioned, so the main things that you check or like to unplug are your straightener and stove. Are there any other appliances or materials that you?
Just things that like could cause danger to my house. Like around Christmas time, I'll make sure that the lights are unplugged so the house doesn't burn down.
Okay.
And making sure all of the lights are turned off before I leave the house. Really just anything that could like burn my house down or cause any danger to my house.
I see. Okay, so you're very protective of your home and everything inside of it as well.
Yeah.
Okay. And has there ever been a time where you have forgotten to unplug something or have forgotten to unlock the door?
A couple times, yeah. One time I forgot to turn off my straightener, and I got home later that day and it was still on, but that was a couple of years ago. That hasn't happened in a while, because I check to make sure that doesn't happen.
Okay, and what happened when you saw that it was on?
What do you mean?
Like, did anything burn, or was there any negative consequences to that?
No, I mean, it was just really hot and I got really scared, like, oh my God, something really bad could have happened with this.
Right. Okay. All right, yeah, so I appreciate you kind of walking me through and just getting better understanding as to the details of your everyday routine. So you had mentioned that some of your goals are to stop some of these behaviors, to feel like you're more in control. And you've mentioned that this has even gotten in the way of like your relationship with your husband and your kids. And I remember last time you mentioned that some of these behaviors have gotten worse ever since your mom passed away 6 months ago. Can you describe to me a little bit about what changed since then?
Well, I guess I just check more. Like it used to just be big things like the stove or the hair straightener, things that were just like really obvious. But now I check more things that are a little bit more benign, like all the lights in the house, make sure that they're off, even making sure the air conditioner is off. So I'll set it like 78 before I leave so that that's not running all day because that could like cause a fire or something if something trips. Sometimes I'll even unplug the appliances before I leave to make sure that like those don't catch on fire. I don't know, I guess my anxiety overall has been a lot worse since my mom passed, and I'm not really sure why. It just has gotten a lot worse, and I've noticed that me and my husband have been arguing a lot more because I take so much time checking things.
Okay, so not only is this time consuming, all the checking and everything, but it's also affecting your relationships. So that makes it even more difficult. Okay. So yeah, I just wanted to gain some information and then talk a little bit about what we'll be doing today. So even before that, I would like to just talk a little bit about what anxiety is and some of the things that kind of help maintain anxiety and other things that help reduce it. Are you comfortable with talking about that?
Sure.
Okay, so a lot of times when we hear the word anxiety, we think of something negative as, you know, someone that's stressed out or kind of out of control in some sense. But anxiety in itself could actually be helpful as well. So has there, like, anxiety can work to motivate us to do something to accomplish a task. Have you ever experienced a time where anxiety actually pushed you to do something, to accomplish something?
Yeah, like to make sure that my house is safe.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so that's an example there. And on top of that, anxiety is also adaptive. So, for example, if you're fearful of something, let's say a dog or some like animal is coming after you, it's like your body has that feeling to, okay, I have to run now or else like I might be in danger. So anxiety also helps in that sense of protecting us from things that might hurt us. But the problem is that when anxiety becomes like so much that we can't control it and it becomes almost like on the opposite extreme where it's not so helpful anymore, but it causes you to panic or to feel like paralyzed, then it's not so helpful. So have you ever experienced a time where that has been the case, where you just felt so nervous or something that you couldn't?
Yeah, like every day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
Especially since my mom passed away. It's been really bad.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean,
paralyzed, like you said. That's how I feel.
I see. Okay, so you've already experienced that where it's been helpful, but then also not so helpful as well.
I think right now it's more unhelpful than it is helpful.
I see. Yeah, and so, you know, one of the first steps is coming into therapy. So you're already doing a great job in being here and trying to help reduce that. So, and the way we kind of describe when like anxiety becomes not so helpful or paralyzing, it's almost like a faulty alarm system. So for example, you have an alarm in your house if in case an intruder breaks in. So the alarm goes off and then you know, okay, there's something wrong I have to be cautious or aware of. But then when anxiety takes over so much, it's almost like your body and your mind is acting as if an alarm is going off all the time. So if you're in the house, you're thinking someone's breaking in like every minute or something. So then it's almost like an inappropriate response. There's nothing to be worried of, or you're not in danger. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So on the opposite end, or a lot of times people try to reduce this feeling of fear or anxiety or feeling overwhelmed by avoiding things that cause them to be nervous. Have you ever experienced a moment where you've maybe felt in danger in a situation and then you're like, okay, I need to run out of here or avoid this situation?
I guess when I saw, I don't know, like when I'm walking down the street in the dark or something. Is that what you're talking about? Where you just feel unsafe, so I'll like scurry back in the house.
Okay, yeah, that's a great example. And please explain to me, because this is part of the process of what we're doing today. So you're walking outside and then you go back in the house. What is the difference between how you're feeling when you're outside versus once you go back home?
Oh, I feel much safer when I'm back home.
Right.
I feel like there's so many things out there that could really hurt me.
Mm-hmm. So by going back into the house, you're like reducing your anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Great, and so that's what we call avoidance. So that's a thing that a lot of people with different fears and different anxieties experience, and that's why it's almost hard to reduce it or to control it, as one of your goals is to kind of gain some control. Because as you mentioned, by running away from the situation, avoiding, it reduces your anxiety. So you're like, okay, great, whenever I feel afraid, I'll just not be there. I'll just run away, just avoid it in some way, whether it's your thoughts or an actual situation physically. And because, of course, no one wants to experience pain or some kind of suffering, so that makes sense. But the problem is that it's almost like the anxiety or that fear is starting to control the individual. So ironically, what actually helps to reduce some of this anxiety is confronting it and experiencing it, because when you may feel frightened or anxious about something, it may feel like very intense, but the good thing is that our body will not feel the like extreme amount of anxiety the entire time that they're there. Like eventually it starts to reduce.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that's difficult is having to confront it and actually stay present and kind of sit through that fear, that uncomfortable feeling.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so
it sounds really scary.
Yes, of course, and that's exactly why a lot of people don't want to confront their fears, because it's much easier to just not experience that, physiological feeling of either like the heart racing or a dry mouth, or that's uncomfortable. No one would want to go through that. So with that being said, today I'm going to ask you to do something that you might not want to do, but I want you to know that I'm here to support you, and this is a skill that we're going to be practicing. So because
what are you getting at?
Yeah. All right. So this is a skill, and like I said, because it is a skill, it's not something that you perfect on the very first day. This is something that takes practice, and the first time you try anything, it's always a little difficult to master. So that's why I'm here, and I'm here to help you out, and this is going to be a process. So I'll first even just ask for an example as we go into this. Has there ever been like a memory or an experience where the first time you did it was like really scary and you couldn't handle it, but then you did it again and it was like not so bad, and the more you did it, it kind of...
I guess like riding a roller coaster.
Okay. So what was that like the first time versus...
It was really scary because I thought, like the car is going to fly off the track and I'm going to propel into the air or something. But then I got more and more comfortable with it because my kids really loved going on them, so I would go on it with them, and then it got less scary.
Okay, so it was both like the repetitious acts of like going on it more, and then recognizing, okay, like kids, maybe people younger than me enjoy it.
Yeah.
So that combination helped you.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so that's very much the process that we're going to do today, and later on in therapy, but just one thing at a time. So what I'm going to ask you to do, you already described to me what your daily routine is, and you're checking in some of the fears behind that. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, we call it an imaginal exposure. Because I'm not necessarily going to go into your home right now and ask you to keep things plugged in or to leave the house with the door unlocked. Exactly, yes, your face does it all right there. That's something very extreme. What I'm going to do instead is that we're going to together picture and go through like a scene of some of these fears that you have. And so, for example, not checking the stove 8 times to turn it off, or starting your day with your left foot, or not. Some of these things, yeah, that sounds very scary. But the first step is practicing it here, just like an imagination, just a narrative, and just experiencing that, because as you mentioned, the more we experience something that we're fearful of, little by little, we start to feel less anxiety about it. So what I'll ask you to do, and what's helpful is that this is just thoughts and just in your mind. It's all imaginary. So therefore, your thoughts cannot hurt you as nervous or as anxious as you may feel. Like you're still in this room. None of this is actually occurring. This is just playing out in your mind. So I'll ask you to do is if you can sit comfortably. Are you comfortable right now? Yeah. Okay. And to not close your eyes just yet, but to close your eyes and walk me through once again like your day, but this time not starting your day off with your right foot, maybe checking the stove 2 times instead of 8 times, and leaving your straightener plugged in, and just and if I want you to talk about it in the present moment. So for example, I am getting out of bed and I am stepping with my left foot. So like that, just walking me through the whole process, and doing almost like doing the opposite of what you normally would do. And I understand that would cause a lot of anxiety and some uncomfortable feelings. So throughout this time, I'll be checking your SUDS levels. So basically, scaling it from 0 to 100, with 0 being you're totally relaxed, not a care in the world, and 100 being like the most distressing feeling you've ever experienced. So I'll be checking in just to kind of see how you're feeling, within your body and your mind, and how nervous you're feeling. I know I'm just throwing a lot of information at you, so please feel free if you have any questions. And yeah.
So I'm imagining my day, without doing all my checking.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So let's say you said, you usually end on even numbers if you end on an odd number, or doing some of these things. And like I said, like this is all just make believe. This is not actually happening. Mm-hmm. So I'm here to support you and walk you through it. And you're in a safe environment. You're here in this therapy room.
Okay.
So, and then at the end we'll process it and everything. So,
okay.
How does that sound?
Really scary, but
right.
I'm here. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as we talked about, it's part of it. This is confronting those fears, and I'll even check in with you as to what you're thinking in those moments or how you're feeling, and just to fully grasp this whole experience for you.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So if you just close your eyes and just walk me through your day.
Like from when I wake up?
When you wake up and.
Okay. So I woke up,
mm-hmm.
and I put my left foot on the floor, and I don't want to do that.
And how are you feeling right now? What number would you say on that scale?
Like a 90, because this is going to set my whole day in the wrong direction.
Okay.
But I guess I could also end my day on my right foot, which would give me an even amount of steps.
Okay.
So I am walking
Correct.
to the stove to put my tea on. So I turn the stove on and put the teapot on the stove, and I walk back to my bathroom and I get in the shower and I am blow drying my hair.
What number are you at now?
I'm at I guess like a 50.
Okay.
Because I'm really not thinking about like my steps at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I turn my hair straightener on, and my tea starts going. So I go in the kitchen and take the teapot off and turn the stove off and put the water in the cup. And then I really want to check it again, but I'll just look at it, I guess.
Okay. Sorry, what's going through your mind as you're thinking, I want to check it?
Like, I'm not sure if it's off. It could still be on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if something happens, I can't ever forgive myself because I didn't check it.
Okay. And what number are you at there?
Like an 80.
Okay.
But I can see that it's off, but I'm like, the red light on the stove, it's still on.
Mm-hmm.
And usually that just means that the stove top is hot, but like sometimes it could mean that it's still on. Okay. So the red light is on, and I'm really not sure that it's off, even though I turned it off. And I go back in the bathroom and I straighten my hair, and I unplug the straightener. and I see the red light and that's off. So I know it's off and I can see that it's not unplugged anymore and I know it's off, but I still want to like, for some reason it just doesn't, I don't know, I just don't believe that it's off almost. It's kind of weird.
And what number are you at now?
Like an 80.
Okay. So an 80.
And then I throw all my stuff in the bag and, you know, put my makeup on and everything like that. And then I leave the house and I usually like lock the bottom doorknob from the inside just because it's easier to turn it. And so I pull the door shut and I twist it to make sure that it's locked, and then I lock the top one. The what is it called? The lock thing, like the big lock thing.
Okay.
Because there's like a doorknob and a lock thing. We have both.
Okay.
So I do the big lock, and ordinarily I would unlock the bottom one, like the doorknob one, and pull on it to make sure that the top one was closed, and then unlock again the bottom doorknob one and twist it to make sure that like was locked too. But I guess without it, I would just do the top and the bottom, and then.
Okay, so that's what you're doing now, just the top and the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just ones. And
what's going through your mind as you're doing this?
I don't believe that this is locked. There's like the top one might be unlocked and I didn't lock it properly. I have to check, but I guess I can't.
And because you can't check, what's your suds level right now?
90.
Okay.
Because I just don't trust that. I can't remember if I locked it or not, and I don't know if it like went all the way into the wall. You know, like when the thing goes all the way across. I don't know. Like I can kind of see it, but it might be loose. I'm not really sure. So, do I keep going? So then I guess I leave and I walk down my stairs and get in my car and turn it on.
And how are you feeling now that you're in the car?
Like an 80.
Okay.
Because I don't know if my house is locked. I think the stove is on, and I think my straightener is still on. And my house might burn down, and I drive to work, and all I want to do is turn around and go back home to make sure that everything is off and locked and safe. And I guess I'm at an 80 still.
Okay. And then what are you feeling? Anything in your body right now?
Yeah.
Can you describe that?
My stomach is in knots and I'm sweating a little bit. My hands are like clammy.
Okay.
I have kind of a headache, like a tension headache.
Okay. Great. Are you ready to open your eyes?
Yeah.
Well, you did a great job, so thank you for doing that. I know that was definitely going against everything that you're used to and uncomfortable for you. So even before we process it, how was that whole experience for you?
Really terrible.
Yeah. Kind of what's going through your mind now after you experienced it?
It was just really nerve-wracking, like picturing me actually doing that and leaving the house, not knowing if it was safe, and then being at work all day, hypothetically, like not knowing if my house was going to burn down. It was like really like paralyzing.
Right. And the fact that you couldn't go back and check it, you just had to trust that you did it.
It still makes me anxious. Like I'm thinking about now. It's like this morning, did I check everything? Is everything off?
Right. Yeah. And actually, before we continue with that, I feel like this is a perfect moment to implement something that will start here, but you can implement every day in your life from now on. We call it diaphragmatic breathing, which is basically like belly breathing.
Okay.
So I'll show you a little bit. We can do it together. It's okay. As you're feeling experiencing all these emotions and everything. So if you can place one hand on your chest and one on your stomach. And then a lot of times when we feel anxious and we're breathing, we might like lift our shoulders up or like go back. And if anything, that like taking a deep breath, it's almost like counterintuitive or like counteracts the purpose. So if we can, so I'll show you first and then we can do it together. If we take a deep breath, and rather than letting your shoulders go up, have your stomach come out as if you're like blowing up a balloon. We tell kids that that's how it's done. And then hold it there for a couple seconds. And then breathe out slowly. and then as you're breathing out, feeling your stomach come back in. So it's almost like you blow up the balloon and then hold it and then back in. So if we could try that a couple times. 1, 2, hold it. Breathe out. Do you feel your stomach going in and out? Yeah? Okay, so let's try it again. All right, how do you feel after doing that?
Can we do it one more time? Of course we did it 3 times.
Mm-hmm. All right. Have you ever done deep breathing like that before?
I mean, I've heard people say like take deep breaths and stuff. I just don't really see how that's helpful.
Okay. Did you experience any difference, and you can say that you didn't, between right after finishing that story that you said versus now after?
Oh yeah, huge difference.
Okay. What did you notice?
My stomach, it doesn't hurt as bad anymore.
Okay.
Probably because I'm not like in the moment of feeling so anxious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the deep breathing does help actually.
Okay. So you're able to kind of get your mind off of all of that very scary thing that we talked about, and now focusing on your breathing, and that helps calm the body down.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I just even want to talk about, I wanted to scale with the numbers, and I know, I was kind of interrupting as you were describing just to see what you were thinking, how you were feeling, and your anxiety levels. So some things that I wrote down were that 90 was the highest that you ever got to, and that was at the start of your day when you started with a wrong step, and you're like, oh no, like my day is gonna be ruined. But then you also quickly said, like, oh, I'll just kind of even it out by ending with my right foot. And then later on, you said that you felt like a 90 suds level because you weren't checking the lock again as much as you usually do. So those were 2 very distressing times for you. And then after that, the 2 80s that I wrote down was with like your iron that you didn't check multiple times, and then same with the stove. So those are some of the more distressing times. Would you say that that's how it is in your everyday life as well?
Yeah.
Those are the biggest things. Okay. And then I checked that you were at like a 50 when you were blow drying your hair, not thinking about the different things that you had to turn off, or yeah. Okay. And so what the purpose of that was, as I described before, this is all very new, and these are behaviors and routines they've gotten very much used to. And it makes sense that you would want to take away this feeling of like, okay, someone's going to break into my house, so how can I take away that fear by like making sure that the door is locked and checked? And I noticed that a lot of times for both for the stove, for the iron, and for your door, that even though you did it and it seemed off, it was like you didn't believe that it was off.
Yeah.
What's that like?
Myself. Like I'm sure that I did something wrong there, or like I don't know. Even though I see like my hair straightener, I see it unplugged, and I see the red light is off. It's almost like I think that there's a magician or something that's gonna like go back and plug it back in or something. I don't really know why I don't trust myself with that. The stove makes a little more sense to me because I could have like not turned it all the way off. It could still be like just a touch on still.
Right. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Sometimes it's just like a little bit off, and it's not completely on the like off.
Yeah. Like I have one of those knobs, and it kind of clicks when it's off, but like it could click back.
I see. Has that ever happened before where it has clicked back?
No, but I check.
Right.
So I know it's not off.
Exactly.
Or I know it is off.
Okay. Yeah. And then you said that after your mom passing, there were other, like you said, like checking the lights and all of that. So would you say that's a little bit less distressing than the other events because it was not included in your story, or how would you make that differentiation?
Yeah, I guess I just do those 3, and I've been doing them for so long that that's what came up in my mind, but I do check the lights to make sure that they're off.
And you mentioned the air conditioning as well.
Yeah, kind of everything.
Okay. And it almost sounds like the 2 big themes are like a fear of like the house burning down, and you mentioned that, I believe you also said that with the air conditioning and the lights.
Yeah, because it could like trip an electrical wire or something. You always hear those horror stories of like
right,
like a fuse birthing or something.
Yeah, and especially you hear those stories and you're like, that might happen to me, and I see where that fear is coming from. And what are some statements that like your children or your husband have said like regarding all of this? Have they?
Oh God, you're crazy. Why are you doing this? You take forever. Everything's fine. Everything's off. Even if it's not off, it's not going to burn the house down. They get really mad.
Wow. And how does that make you feel after hearing all that?
Stupid and crazy.
Right.
But you know, like I have to. I have to make sure everybody's safe.
Yeah. So it's almost like extra hurtful because you are trying to protect your family, but at the same time they're like criticizing and putting you down for what you're doing.
Yeah.
Just out of protection.
I just want to protect everybody and make sure that they're safe. Something terrible can happen. If that's on me, then I can never forgive myself.
Right, I understand. So there's almost like a lot of maybe like pre-guilt of like, if this happened, this would all be my fault. And
pre-guilt is a good one.
Okay, so that, all of that together sounds very distressing and uncomfortable, and I understand why this is all like very impactful in your life. So as I talked about, I recorded your narrative of your Imaginal story, and what I'd like to do in therapy, part of the process, and so first I said this was a skill to learn. So as you said, it wasn't very easy for you, and it was brought about a lot of fears and anxiety just doing this. But what people have found is that research and with past clients, others that have gone through the same difficulties that you're experiencing, this Imaginal exposures and these exposures, and basically to the bottom, like facing these fears has helped to reduce them. So I recorded what you said, and I'd like you to take it home and be able to do this each day. So as we talked about, that once you encounter a fear, like more and more slowly you start to be less frightened by it, because it's like you almost what's coming. So how does that sound?
Really anxiety provoking.
Right. Okay. And what are some things that you found helpful today, or maybe not so helpful, that could work for when you practice this at home?
I guess like the deep breathing could help me get through it.
Okay. And then.
But I have to remember to do it.
Right.
I'm not used to doing it.
Of course. And what are some maybe like motivating factors for you to want to do this? Because as we said, something scary, no one wants to experience that like feeling.
I guess thinking about like my kids and how upset they are with me and my husband. Is that what you mean? Like what motivates me to do it? Yeah, like not pissing off my family anymore.
Okay, so that's a big thing for you. All right.
Being able to get out of the house in under 2 hours would be great.
Right, and that's something that we'd work towards. This is kind of the first step, and you did a great job today already, even being able to get through it, because sometimes it's almost easier to, oh my gosh, I'm experiencing a 90 level of anxiety, so like let me just open my eyes and stop. So that was a great job that you were able to sit through that anxiety and persist and continue to the end of your day, or like getting to work, as you said. So as homework, I'd like for you to take the recording of what you did and just listen to it, and make sure you're in a relaxed state as well. That's why I asked you, make sure you're sitting comfortably. And because it does bring about a lot of anxiety, you preferably might not want to do it before going to bed, or before something like that. And then afterwards also doing the deep breathing at the end, because it is, as you had mentioned, like your stomach gets in knots and you're sweating, and like the kind of like a stress headache. So how does all of that sound?
Hard.
Right. And I want you to always remember that this is all just like in your mind, and this is all imagination right now. So there's no danger to your house, to things burning down or anything. This is all just you experiencing what it's like to not do some of these behaviors that, and eventually we move towards more, towards actually implementing that, but that's very far away. And so this is kind of starting from the bottom. Okay.
So I can actually still check.
Yeah, for right now, we'll start with this of like the imagination and then work towards maybe reducing the number of times that you check and eventually, because as you said, this is affecting your relationship with your husband, with your kids, and even being able to like get to work on time, and it's very time consuming for you. So I know that's your end goal, and that's definitely something I want to help you work towards, and we'll work together. But just in the meantime, we'll start off at the basic level.
Okay.
So it'd be very extreme to, for example, someone that's like afraid of heights, to have them on day one, let's go skydiving and jump out of a plane. That'd be terrifying, and no one would want to do that. So it's baby steps as we work together. And then I want you to, practice this with the tape, and then do your deep breathing afterwards. And if you have any questions or anything comes up, you have my number, and we can talk through it, and then we can process it together in the next session.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you have any questions or any concerns, no.
I don't think so.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, thank you, and I look forward to seeing you next week.
Thanks, Dr. Benito.